Hey, okay, finally, you can see my face on the screen. That last live was crazy. And the camera was being a hater, okay? You can see like me chonking out a little bit too. I done ate a whole lot for Thanksgiving, cooked a whole lot. Okay. All right. In any case, let's just really get into it. All right. We have done so much work over the past month. Like, if you have been following any of my lives, any of my lessons, um, we've gotten quite a bit done. We've developed our and fleshed out our ideas. We really went deep and went hard. Pause. On our character development, giving them a critical history, giving them internal conflict, giving them, 7 ways in which their internal world is messed up, and 6 to 7 externalized ways that their outside world is messed up because of their flaws, right? We designed an external conflict. We learned about all of the different types of conflict that can come to bear on a story, on a character. We developed a character arc where we're combining the internal conflict, the critical history, with the external conflict, and we are developing moments wherein the character is developing and is facing themselves, right? We also put together a really kick-ass log line, all right? Because we now have all the information we need for a great log line. We talked about developing blurbs, and then we went on like a 3 week or 2.5 week adventure with building out our plot from the beginning, middle, end stage to the 4 act structure stage with acts 1, 2A, 2B, and 3. And then we went into the 8 plot points, and then the 8 sequences. Okay. So at this point, if you have been following along with my videos, kind of like step by step by step, you should have a pretty, oh, we also did world building. Can't forget that one. Okay. I mean, we talked about building a world on the macro social level, the mesosocial level, and the macro social level. And I provided some resources for you guys, the books of the day, the pros who do it way better than I ever could, probably. And so you have a lot of information, a lot of resources. And we did do a few exercises, including um, some writing prompts that are genre specific. So we have done so much over this past month. And now it is time, if you have not started actually working on your manuscript, today is the day that we do that. Okay. And going forward in the future, I'm definitely going to do this again next year, probably in October, to kind of like help you guys pre-write, then probably do like a NaNoWriMo actual live writing with some prompts for each day. And then we'll do Vlogmas, like a writer reader Vlogmas, and our usual reader push in December. So I kind of have an idea as to how this is going to be set up for next year. But going back to the original point, this is the day that we take all that information, all that work, and we put it to good use. Okay. Oh, by the way, you guys see this cute? Let me move to the side, all the way to the side. You see this cute background that I have going on? Okay. Even my background is like, girl, we are getting out of the cozy creator phase and we are jumping into Christmas and basically like the end of our winter arc, so to speak, of 2024. All right. So before I jump into your first crappy draft, I just want to remind you that although it's not Cozy Creator Month anymore, we still have a lot of amazing giveaways on and popping and available. And I just want to remind you guys to check the description below. And I'm also going to show you again. I'm pretending like I wasn't live like a few minutes ago. Oh, this is not what I wanted. Hold on, guys. I'm showing my little Facebook events page. That is not helpful to you guys at all. Can we get it together, Colby? Yes, perhaps. Okay. I just want to show you guys what we have on offer for this month. Even though originally, like, I wasn't like I didn't mean to launch these giveaways in this particular series, but since we're here and since they're open, let's just talk about them. Um, the Colby's. Wow, I'm tired. Can you tell? Colby's Cozy Cafe is open at the very least. And we do have some wonderful things on offer, including the 25 Days of Box Sets giveaway, where you can jump right into 25 different authors, totally free for a limited time box sets. in the sci-fi and fantasy genre. So that's really cool. So make sure you click the description below to get access to it. You can also then jump into the ultimate giveaway that's attached to that promo, which will allow you to be, well, allow you to have a chance to be one of 25 winners of one of 25 holiday gifts, which are smaller gifts. And then on the 26th, we're going to be awarding an ultimate holiday gift. That 4-tier gift that was available in November, we're doing that again because that was pretty popular. I also have the Manga Madness giveaway, and then we have our books of the day. And of course, all my giveaways come with free prizes, so everybody's a winner in Colby's world, and you are more than welcome to join them and get your free prizes. So even if you don't win one of the mini prizes or the grand prize, you're still a winner. Okay. All right. Let's though get into why we're really here, which is how to write your first crappy draft. And this was supposed to be in 2 parts originally, but I'm catching up with everything. And so I'm going to give you parts 1 and 2 in this one lesson alone. And we are going to, with that, close out Cozy Creator Month, which is supposed to close on the 30th, but your girl has a lot going on. Okay. So let's just jump into it. Why do I call it writing your first crappy draft? Because your first draft is not going to be perfect. It shouldn't be perfect. And you need to completely get rid of that expectation of perfection altogether. Like, I know, and I know that's really hard because ultimately, this is like something that you probably want to put out into the world, whether you're a novelist, whether you're a screenwriter who wants your work to be made into a feature film, whether you're a TV writer that wants your pilot or your series to be made into a TV series, or you're a game designer, a game writer that eventually wants to either work for a big AAA company or you want to design your own indie games. Like eventually you want your ideas, your, story, your heart and soul out there. But one of the primary rules of writing a crappy draft, and let me actually go to our notes page. So let me take a notes and showing you guys this. One of the, oh, hold on. No. Okay, here we go. What? I literally had this ready for me and now it's acting a fool. Anyway, what is happening? Hold on a second, team. Because it really is playing in my face right now. I was ready for the note taking and it's being a hater. Hold on. Yes, grab this, move over here. Just destroy my climactic moment. Boom. Okay. One of the first things that you're going to be doing when you're writing your first crappy draft is you are writing for yourself. That is one of the biggest hints and tips I can give you in your first go around. All right, is to write for yourself. And originally, this 2-day lesson was going to give you some of like the softer philosophical, not hoity toity, how do you call it? Oh gosh, like soulerific, that's not even a word, soul centered perspective on writing crappy drafts, right? It was going to be kind of like free form and loose, like believe in yourself and da da da. That's what we're doing in the first half of this. But these are important foundational points, even if they're not as concrete as you would like them to be, and you need to nativize these points within yourself as a writer. But the second half of this is going to be actual tips and tricks and um, more of a concrete step-by-step way that you can approach a crappy draft. Okay. But first and foremost, you need to write for yourself. You need to spend time telling yourself the story and enjoying it. This is something that I personally had to relearn when I started publishing independently. And I realized that my work was going out into the world. That's really when my inner perfectionist started to take over and started to kind of criticize every single word. But when I was writing for myself and just enjoying the process, it went so quickly. Writer's block for me, when I have it, it's never really writer's block. It's like writer's doubt. That really kicked me in the face when I realized that I was writing for other people. And at this stage in the process, I really need you to reground yourself in the fact that you are writing for yourself. Just pretend that you're going to write this manuscript or this screenplay or this game, and nobody's ever going to see it. And you're just going to go as wild and as crazy and as like all over the place as you want. Just do it. And I say that to you knowing that I've given you a whole step-by-step plotter perspective on how to create a story. But like this is really the time when you need to like enjoy yourself, right? It's kind of like going on a vacation or a trip. You did all the planning, all the reservations of the tickets, all the hotel reservations, all of the car rentals, all the paperwork. You got your passport. If you're this type of like planner, you know, you looked through all of the planning or the all the guidebooks and you planned out an itinerary or whatever the case is. You've done all the work. Now it's time to go and enjoy your vacation and try to let go of all of the the idiosyncratic details that you spend time focusing on before you went on your trip. All right. Now it's time to let go and to have fun. You don't need to analyze the type of sand that's on the beach and, you know, the amount of time you're in the sun. You already did all that. Now it's time to go and swim and splash around and have fun in the water. Okay. Same thing with your novel. You already planned it out. This is the time where you're enjoying the process of just writing. And you like the plan and the tools that I've given you are not supposed to imprison you. They're supposed to empower you. Right. So just because I gave you an outline, just because I gave you tools does not mean that you have to follow every detail of the outline. It just means, but you don't have to use all the tools either. You don't have to use any of the tools. It's just that when you are actually stuck, you have a roadmap. You have different ways of approaching the problem. You have tools, utensils, whatever, to help you dig your way out of that problem. That's all it's supposed to be. All right. Just kind of like how you want to maybe explore a city overseas. You don't have to follow a map every single. I mean, you might want to know generally like where the good areas are versus the bad areas, like in general, so you can have like a general guideline of where to go and where not to go. But you're not walking through the streets with your head in the map, right? Like you've planned out a route or you planned out like a place you want to explore. Now you're just exploring. But when you get lost or it gets late and you need to find your way back to your hotel or your hostel or whatever, or your Airbnb, okay, like I don't necessarily know I made a lot of twists and turns. Now I can look at the map and find my way back to my original point. And that's what I really want you guys to focus on when it comes to this part of the process is like enjoying the exploration. And then if you feel like a scene is going on too long, a chapter is getting lost, too many things are popping off, just go back to your outline, go back to the sequence that you're in and say, okay, this is where we're supposed to be ended up. And then guide yourself back. But the first rule is to write for yourself. The second rule is to develop a daily writing habit. Okay. This is something that I actually tried to help you guys to do with myself too when I started this Cozy Creator giveaway and this lesson series, right? And we were pretty okay for the most part, right? And by the way, just because I wasn't on doesn't mean I wasn't writing and working, but still, like we did pretty okay. I want you to develop a daily writing habit, and honestly, don't put a word count on it. Okay. When you first start your writing habit, don't put a word count on it. If you really want to like give yourself some kind of ceiling to hit, give yourself a 100 word minimum. Anybody can sit down and write 100 words in like 5 minutes. And if you can't write it, you can always take a voice note. You can always, you know, when you're in the bathroom or you're waiting for somebody or you're on the train or you're at, you're in a waiting room somewhere, you can pull out your phone and type in a crappy 100 words. That's the next step in the scene that you're writing, right? So I would say don't put a word count on it. But if you do, make it a 100 word count. Okay. A lot of times you will find that if you give yourself this soft goal, that you'll end up writing a whole bunch more than 100 words. And that's a score, that's great. And let's actually do some math. As a matter of fact, let's say you don't write anything more than 100 words, right? Let's just do some quick math here. Let's say you write 100 words a day. That's 36,500 words per year. That's essentially like a novella, right? If you write 200 words per day, just like it doesn't have to be an official writing software or at your desktop. Let's just say you're doing this on your phone, right? That's going to be 73,000 words per year. That's a novel right there. 200 words a day. That is a novel a year. And I think back to like all the times that I kind of doubted myself or just didn't have time or didn't make the time. Like ever since I debuted in 2013, bruh, like I have 5 novels now, but it's 2024. If I had just written 200 words per day, I would have minimum 10 to 11 novels. Nothing wrong with having 5 novels. I'm not sneezing at that. That's writing a novel is very hard. But had I been like hard nosed about this, 200 words a day, I would have been able to put out a novel a year. And that is achievable. That is definitely achievable, right? So, same thing if we keep going up and up. Let's say we do 300 words a day, right? I think we're actually getting into the ballpark of, hold on, I think that's actually 109,500. Oh my God, I'm going to be so embarrassed if that's not even true. That's going to be mad embarrassing. But I think I got that right though. That's like a thick novel. That's like a fat novel. Like that could actually, if you divided that in two, that could actually be 2 novels to be really real. Okay. Um, all right. And then let's just jump up to 500 words per day. Let's do, I'm going to actually put this here, a novella. I'm going to put a novel, a fat novel, or 2 smaller novels, right? At 54,000, no, sorry, 55,000 roughly words. That's definitely in novel territory. And then if we do 500 words a day, then it's 182,000 words per year, which I would say is, I mean, it could be a super fat novel, right? Depending on if you're writing fantasy or something like that. It could be 2 fat novels, which is like, about 92,000 words a piece. Or let's say that you like to be even trimmer or slimmer and trimmer with your novels, right? That could be smaller, 3 smaller novels. I'm going to put even like 3 to 4 smaller novels, right? Depending on how long each one is. So you don't have to get up to the point where you're writing this many words a day. You can see basically like the math is mathing and you can achieve a lot of things, even with the most minimal word count, which I would suggest would be 100 words per day if you're putting a word count requirement on it. But the higher you get and the more consistent you are with your first crappy drafts, the more drafts you'll be able to complete. And as you complete more drafts, the less crappy they will be. And that's another thing that I want to make clear in this next point. The more you write, the more you learn, but the less you have to learn. Okay? Because the more you practice a skill, the more it becomes muscle memory. Okay. And I guess muscle memory in this situation would be mental memory is a real thing. So once you've developed a complicated, multi-dimensional character the first time, and then the second and the third, and by the 10th time, you have a structure. You're just changing up the traits, you're changing up the critical history, you're changing up the character arc, right? And you're adding quirks, you're adding other things in it. And it's not something that you have to like relearn. You're actually only just developing more knowledge on top of the knowledge you already have. Okay. So the more you write, the more you learn, but the less that you have to learn, if that makes sense. All right. Another tip to writing your first crappy draft: use a timer. And I'm going to specifically recommend Pomodoro. I mean, this is like not revolutionary advice. A lot of writers recommend using Pomodoro timers, but you can also use your phone, a watch/stopwatch, or a YouTube video timer. And there are plenty of them. Okay. Use a timer. And I would say set it for 5 to 10 minutes. Literally, like if you have 5 minutes, like let's say you get to a meeting early, or you have a work meeting in 10 minutes or whatever, or you don't have time to write, but you have time to go to the bathroom or pretend that you're in there, like using the bathroom if you're not, like just write. I don't care what you do, write on the toilet if you have to, but write. And use a timer. And once you have met that timer's requirements, once that 10 minutes is up, you're done. You're done for the day. You're done for the day until you develop that habit of writing every single day. And again, the more you write, the more you will get into the zone, the faster you'll get into the zone. And the more second nature is going to become to you. And you're going to start having more ideas. Your ideas are going to evolve naturally. There's like, I want to talk about this. I don't necessarily have like a solid studyable theory of this, but like I do believe that there is an energy and like an ethereal momentum that you build up when you actually write or engage in something every single day that makes your brain get into the mode a lot faster, and it helps you to basically call in the muse a lot faster. And your brain in the back of your mind is going to be working on the problems of your draft, and you're going to get ideas throughout the day. So, like, if you show up for your writing every single day, it will show up for you. If you show up for your muse, she's going to show up for you. This is not a situation where you have to sit around and wait for inspiration. Even if you have to sit and write like crap, you know what I'm saying, which is the next tip we're going to get into. That is what you have to do. You have to write like crap. Okay. And so that's the next tip. Write like crap. I'm going to put like shit, but write. Okay. This is the hardest tip to employ. Okay. But if you write for yourself and you spend time writing scenes for yourself that you love, they will help you to think of other scenes, and they will encourage you to keep coming back to your writing every day because it's not something that you have to be intimidated by. Okay. And that's really important, I think, for developing a great habit, and also for calling yourself a writer, and being able to actually do the thing when you sit down to write. So I don't care if like your scenes have to say something as simple as hero punches villain in face, villain snarls, period, villain punches back, period, hero dodges and does a spinning round kick into villain's face. I don't care if it's that you're doing. Like when you're literally like not storytelling, you're using zero craft, you're using like no wordsmithery. This is not the area to try to be the hero that you are writing about. Okay. This is the era or the time where you are the bumbling NPC, you know what I'm saying? Basically just documenting what the characters are doing. Without art, you are the court reporter in the lawless world of your characters, okay? I say that because at the end of the day, it is easier to mold a crappy draft than it is to mold a draft that does not exist, okay? So write like crap. Don't worry about wordsmithing. Don't even worry about paragraphs. Don't even worry about complete sentences. Like, just like, there are no rules but the ones that you make. Okay. So I really want you to keep that in mind. There are some other tips that I jotted down. Give me 1 second. Let me just see. Oh, one last one. One last one. Because a lot of the other tips like are really about writing like crap. But that's the number one rule. One last one that I think is really important. It's okay to eat your dessert first. Writing is not a punishment. And scenes are not the vegetables. Oops. You have to eat before the cake. And let me just make that smaller so you can see, okay? Write because you enjoy writing. And sometimes that means, oops, eating, I'm going to say, writing the most fun scenes first. And that is okay. All right. Um, I do want to stress to you that there are going to be some scenes, some characters, some pivotal moments that are going to be moments that you have to write in a novel. Actually, you don't really have to do anything you don't want to do in novel writing or in game writing or in screenwriting. Excuse me. Sorry, I had a hiccup. There are going to be those moments, right, that you might have to have something has to happen in your novel and you're not particularly like excited about it, I guess, or whatever. I guess you have to write those moments, but even if you have to write those moments should never cause you pain. You know what? No. Mm-mm. No. Let's just I'm gonna scratch all of that. Scratch all. Let me just be 1,000% real. Okay. Let's just let Colby just give you the real tea. The real tea is this. Every single scene in your novel should be an exciting scene to write. Every single scene should feel like you're eating a piece of cake. Now, maybe you don't want to eat chocolate cake the whole book, and that's cool. Then that means every single chapter should be a different flavor of cake. Chocolate cake in the first, vanilla cake in the second, lemon cake in the third, my favorite, carrot cake in the fourth, right? All the way up to the red velvet cake or whatever cake you think is the best cake in the world. Like every single chapter should be a slice of cake. Because if you're not enjoying the writing process, I can guarantee you the reader is not enjoying the reading process. Okay. Now, sometimes that's not necessarily true because, again, those external pressures weigh down on us and keep us in a state of apoplexy. You are apoplectic, right? Where basically means that like you're so overwhelmed that you can't do anything. It's like between flight, fight, and freeze, you're in freeze mode. Okay. And so that's because of those external pressures. J.K. Rowling talks about this when she was writing like the last couple of books of Harry Potter, which would explain why some parts of that felt kind of rushed. But she felt that immense pressure of delivering a book that stood up to the rest of the series and stood up to the world's expectations, which were very, very high of her at that time, right? But that mostly comes from external pressure, okay? That mostly comes from you trying to build up your book to be this whole like American or worldwide phenomenon where really you should just be having fun. Okay, you should be eating your dessert first, always, because if you're not enjoying writing it, your reader's probably not enjoying reading it. Now there are some writers who I can relate to. They'll say, I think Vince Gilligan said this. And if you don't know who Vince Gilligan is, he's the brilliant mind behind Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. He said, I don't enjoy writing, I enjoy having written. But again, is it because he doesn't enjoy weaving together these amazing stories, or he doesn't enjoy the pressure that comes along with having to live up to the last amazing episode or the last amazing chapter? I would venture to guess that it's the latter reason. So I want to free you from this, right? And I want to let you know it's okay to write all of your most amazing, delicious, fun, incredible, sexy, high octane, ass kicking scenes first. But technically, all of your scenes should feel that way. And when I say that, I don't mean that if you're writing a thriller novel, that every single chapter should be like an action scene. That would be a little bit too much for the audience. Like we need moments of rest, but there should be tension. There should be a twist. There should be a character kind of like coming in with an objective and having his whole world turned on its head, whether it's externally or internally or both. And having said that, we're going to move on from the woo woo side of writing your first draft to the more concrete side. Just give me a second. I'm going to duplicate this page. Give me like a minute, actually. I'm going to go on mute. Sorry, I was just like, what is this chick doing? I'm trying to get myself together. Okay, so let's now talk about no, it did not do this to me again. Let's talk about the more concrete aspects, right, of writing a crappy draft. I gave you all the woo woo, all the philosophical perspectives, right, of like the mindset. I gave you the mindset version. Now we're going to get to the how do you actually tackle your first crappy draft. Number one, I'm going to repeat a tip that I just gave you, but I also got from James Patterson. And no, I don't say that as though I know him personally. I don't. I took his master class, which is a great class, pretty solid class, honestly. But there was one chapter of the class that made my investment completely worth it. I would say that a lot of his advice was like relatively rote, and that's no shade to him at all. But like, I've taken so many writing seminars, so many writing classes. I'm like, okay, I've heard that, I've heard this, I've heard that. But there is one technique that he taught the class that I learned that really blew open my writing. And I'm going to tell you what that technique is, and I'm also going to show you an example. Okay. And so this harks back to my original point of tell yourself the story first. Oops. Now, what do I mean in this regard, right? In this regard, I mean write a narration or a summary of your story. And I'm going to say specifically of each scene in your story, right? This really like broke open for me the entire world of like drafting, because instead of feeling pressured to go from my original kind of like outline that I have outlined for you guys, there's more steps to that outline, but we stopped at sequences. Instead of going from sequences to actually having to create a character description, inner thoughts, dialogue, action, description, that's a lot of pressure, right? I just told myself the story. So basically what that means is that you're going to want to create an outline document, like a scene outline document. And then you're going to write, let's say that you want to have 50 scenes or 50 chapters, right, in your story. You're going to write down the titles of the chapters, if you have any, okay? You're going to list the titles first. And this is actually kind of fun, because you get to get creative with it. You get to kind of use it as a point of intrigue. For example, in J.K. Rowling's Harry Potter series, the very first chapter of the novel was The Boy Who Lived. That's what it is, The Boy Who Lived. That alone creates intrigue for the reader. What do you mean the boy who lived? Clearly there was some kind of danger that he was in, some kind of mortal danger, and he survived it. Let's read and find out what's going on, right? And so just based on that title alone, we get an entire chapter with a very clear, what we call act out, right? Which is like kind of like a cliffhanger or like a very clear beat in the story where we can end the chapter and it has implications for what comes next. Okay? So list out the titles of the chapters. If you don't have titles, then just use numbers. Okay? Very simple. But I find the titles to be very helpful. But again, we're not trying to do pressure. So use numbers if you don't have titles, or use a mix if you need to. Then list under this, and I'm actually adding on to James Patterson's outline. This helps me, okay? You're gonna do, let's do titles. Let's do characters. List out the characters in who will be in the scene. This does not have to be an exhaustive list, okay? Let me write that in, because you do want to leave some room for a surprise. When you're in the zone and you're writing and you're on a roll, there are going to be things that pop into your story and pop into your head, just like in the real world, that you did not plan for. And you want to leave some room for that. But if you know who the two main characters are or what have you, great, list them out. Because with character comes objectives, motivations, critical histories, flaws, and ultimately micro-social conflicts, mesosocial conflicts, and how those things play into the macro-social, right? So put characters in your scene, and they're gonna naturally start talking to each other. But we're not even writing dialogue. We're just listing out the cast, okay? Titles, characters, and then just describe what happens in the scene, right? You're not putting in dialogue. You're not putting in scene description, or you're not putting in like world description or world building per se. You're not writing character description. You're just telling us what happens in the scene, right? I'm going to give you an example, and let me shift my tab. Here we go. This is the first and part of the second scene of Asylum, which I have changed the name of that series. Sorry, I got stuck because I'm like trying to catch up with my brain. um, the Asylum series that I'm going to be working on basically all of 2025 in tandem with Books of Ezekiel. I am putting together a outline. I'm taking my own advice, right? And you notice that I have elements here that I'm telling you about. So the very first scene of the Asylum series, now called, well, I'm not going to tell you what it's called. I want to remain family friendly. But one, you see the character is listed. Okay, the main character is here. Here is the title of the scene. Or if I wanted this to be a chapter, that's what the title would be, at least in the outline, right? Scene number 1, Seeds in Gethsemane. If I didn't have a title, I would just leave it as scene number 1 and call it a day. But this title is meaningful. I've also listed here, right? And this is for the purpose of like both my novel writing and my TV writing, what type of scene it is. You don't even have to do this at the outline level, y'all. Okay? All you have to do is basically list out the character and the title and or the number. Okay? And then I literally go through a description of what the scene is about. Now, because this is developed as a TV pilot, I develop or I write a description of the beats in this first scene. A Piet is shoved forward by a masked assassin, right? Forced look at the open graves he passes. That's a little bit more detail than you even need, right? But I put it in there because I had a very clear view of what the scene was going to be, okay? His hands are tied, blah, blah, blah. He starts begging for his life. He and the assassin converse. As he does, the assassin puts a red and black bag over his head. And then I end the scene with a prelap, okay? And a prelap is a screenwriting term where basically the next scene starts, or the audio of the next scene starts while the first scene is still going. You guys have seen this countless times in the movies. But I end with a prelap of kindergartners singing. right? And that's it. That's the end of the scene. Okay. The ending point of this particular character's journey is that the assassin ends up killing the pilot as they were instructed to do. Okay. And so this is essentially like the bare bones basic structure of how you can develop your outline. And you literally go through and you use the structure: character, scene title and or number, and a description of the scene. You notice that there's very little dialogue here. All right. I'm telling you what's happening and what the characters are going through in the scene, but there's only one line of dialogue, right? And that line of dialogue is Family Black sends their regards. Okay. But you don't even need to have that much. You can just describe what's happening. And you repeat this process pretty much for every single scene in your novel. Okay. Make it easy on yourself. But the way that you can lay out the entire bones or the entire skeleton, the entire structure of your novel is by designing your outline in this way. Let's build on this, right? Let's build on this. Let me go back to my presentation. I'm going to put summary here so that it's clear. And this is actually what I'm going to leave you guys with, because it is getting late. I do need to get, wine down my night and also get my little one to bed. Here we go. Titles, character, summary. I'm going to put titles and or numbered scenes. All right. Let me give you the tea on what else you can do if you're feeling, let's say, ambitious and you have the time and you have the ideas in your mind already. I'm going to say use a modified Freytasian structure for your scene summaries, right? So once you have this basic outline or this basic structure down, and you're just using that basic structure to tell yourself the story of each scene, of each chapter, and the summary doesn't have to be very long, right? Let's say that you're ready to add some more detail and you're ready to really understand the ins and outs of that particular scene, character growth, character, arc or what have you. Let's start here, okay? You already have your characters. Under your characters, let's actually cut and paste this. Ooh, that's ugly. That's okay. Hold on, guys. Just trying to get this together. All right, under your character, for each character, list their objective or goal coming as the scene starts, right? Then you're going to introduce an obstacle to that goal. So let's say you have a detective, right? He approaches the femme fatale, to question her about her husband's death, right? And his original goal is to get in, get the information, and get out. But she doesn't want to give up the information, even though her husband is dead. She takes time to try to seduce the detective. That's an obstacle to the detective's goal. Okay. From there, you need to have your main character make a choice and take an action. And actually, before we even get to that, for each character, you want to list their objective or goal as the scene starts. And then you also want to describe the action the character takes to meet that goal. Okay. Then you want to introduce an obstacle to that goal. right? And then you want to have your main character make a choice in the face of that obstacle. So in the face of the obstacle, have your main character make a choice. I'm going to turn this into MC so that we don't get lost in the sauce. Make a choice and take an action. Usually that action can be adversarial, conciliatory, or how do you say? A retreat. Okay. So the detective is in front of the femme fatale whose husband was just murdered. He wants to get more information. She tries to seduce him. He has some choices to make, right? Does he sleep with her? Does he take her out on a date? Does he kiss her? Or is he, stone faced and is like, ma'am, I'm here to get information. Okay. You're either going to give it to me or we're going to have a problem. Okay. So in the first situation, he's being conciliatory, where like he's going along with it because he's weak or whatever. In the second situation, he's adversarial. He's determined to get what he wants regardless. In the third situation, he can be like, this is not really for me. And he's leaving the situation. Right. So, and mind you, like you can mix and match any one of these reactions. He can be adversarial and then retreat based on her response. He can be conciliatory and then dip out of there after they did the deed. You know what I'm saying? He can be conciliatory and then adversarial, or adversarial and then conciliatory. Like you can really mix and match it. So this is a great opportunity to kind of explore the what if vibe. You know what I'm saying? Um, oh, okay. Um, no matter what, though, you always have to always list the consequences, even if they don't happen in the scene. They have to happen at some point, or you have to plant them at some point, right? So make sure you always list the consequences of the MC's actions. Some of these should have immediate effects. Oops, that's not how you spell effects. And others should come back to bite. Oops, the MC. I'm gonna have to make this a lot smaller or make a different slide. Okay. All right, let me see if I can actually give me a second to organize this, y'all. There we go. So there's gonna be immediate consequences and long-term consequences. Then we wanna have the final act out, right? Which is going to be in a reveal, a cliffhanger, a resolution. And there's another thing that in another kind of like lesson plan that I started developing, there were like 4 to 5 different ways to end the scene. Excuse me. And these are 3 of them. I'll come back and kind of figure out, gosh, it was like an R5. It was the reveal, like some new information is being revealed that changes everything. A cliffhanger where basically we can see him get seduced by the woman and then fade to black or do a closed door scene, which is a really interesting way to kind of tantalize your readers with the, ooh, he did that. A clear resolution, I'm going to put with a new objective, right? Whatever it is, whatever the final beat of that scene is, there should be clear implications, right? We should either feel satisfied and have our attention turned somewhere else. We should be on the edge of our seats to find out what happens in the next chapter, or the reveal of new information should have our minds spinning and still wanting us to move forward. As I developed this part more, because like again, I kind of like broke this down to a science in a different lesson that I was developing, I'll like do another live that will describe this. Okay. So we're gonna get rid of this final point here because the summary of what happens is no longer necessary because this entire character adventure is what happens. And that goes back to the original point that I made at the very beginning of this writing adventure that we're on is that character is story, right? The story of the character arc is the story of the plot. It is the plot, right? And so if you have the characters and what they do, their choices and how their choices change things, if that is clear in every single scene, even in just a general summary, you will have a story that writes itself. Okay, essentially. So these are my two concrete tips to writing your first crappy draft. Tell yourself the story first with this structure here, titles and or numbered scenes, characters, listen to characters, writing a general summary. And then if you're feeling bold and you're feeling like you're ready for the next level, then you want to come down and develop the characters. I'm gonna actually get rid of this too. You're gonna develop the characters and their journeys in more detail because that's actually gonna flesh out the summary for you in a very clear way. Okay. One thing that I want to talk about with regard to the final act out is that the final act out doesn't always have to be a direct result of the character's action all the time. It should usually, but remember, we're dealing with conflict on the micro, meso, and macro social level. The character is not in control of everything. All right. For example, if the character goes to talk to the femme fatale who is trying to seduce him, right? And he says, "No, what are you doing? You're crazy," right? He could easily walk away, or all of a sudden a fusillade of bullets can come through the office door and he could save her, narrowly save her, right? That is the final act out on that, or like the big beat there is that an external enemy wants to kill him and the femme fatale. And now you might have a scene where she admits like she was trying to seduce him because she wanted him to stay because she felt unsafe, or she just needed she needed to feel like she was being protected, or she was afraid or knew that this was going to be her last night on earth, so she wanted to spend it with someone. Like, it opens up a variety of possibilities, right? Especially like since the conflict is coming from outside of the two characters. So you don't necessarily, I'm going to actually put here, external incidents. I'll put that there as well. You don't always necessarily have to, there we go. You don't necessarily have to have your act out or your conflict always come directly from the micro social interactions. We should always see some friction, but you have to remember that your characters live in a larger world, and that's especially true if it's a sci-fi or fantasy world. Okay. Okay, team, I know y'all are tired because I am tired and I have to get myself and my little one to bed. I hope that these lessons were really helpful for you guys in some way, shape, or form. I hope that this particular structure for writing your first draft, like the woo woo part and the structured part, are helpful for you. I hope that showing you a sample outline or a piece of it is helpful for you. And again, I'm just going to end on this note where if you don't do anything else, you should definitely be writing, and you should definitely be investing in our giveaways and in our 25 days of box sets giveaway, which are all free to enter. Everybody gets a prize, and your prize this holiday season is 25 sets of ebook bundles, essentially, from sci-fi and fantasy authors. Okay. And you can check all of those out in my description below. I hope you guys have an amazing, amazing night. I hope that you are writing your behinds off and you're finishing off your winter arc with your first drafts. And this is not the last that you will see of me. I will be back streaming again more consistently at the top of 2025, because I do have some new things that I'm working on and that I'm doing in 2025. So I'm excited about that. But in the meantime, please keep writing. Refer back to all these videos that I put up, because I will be taking them down as of December 31st, more than likely. And I'll be repackaging them and kind of like doing them, recutting them into probably like a course that you'll have to buy into. So get it for free while it's available in its debut form. But in any case, keep writing, keep creating, keep showing up for yourself and for your creativity. And I will see you guys soon. Good luck and good night. Bye.